Hi friends, do you know what time it is? Yep, it's Howdy Doody time. I bet you haven't heard that one in a while. Steve here in Palm Springs, California, actually Cathedral City, California, which is right next door to Palm Springs, at Desert Memorial Park. And I'm here this morning to visit the final resting place of Howdy Doody's mom. She actually created Howdy Doody. Not the show, but the actual marionette, the Howdy Doody marionette. And she's laid to rest right inside the front gate here in the very first section. And it was only recently that I discovered that she's buried here right next to my grandparents. And you can also see Frank Sinatra's gravesite from her gravesite. And he has a new headstone that was just placed in the last month or so, which I'll also show you in a few minutes. I was beginning to think I was never going to find her gravesite in this tiny little section here, and it turns out that these older headstones, most of them have survived really well over the years. I mean, some of them are really old, and they're still very, very readable. Hers happens to be the only one that's really faded and really difficult to read, and it happened to be here in a shady section, and I walked right past it 2 or 3 times and just didn't see it because I couldn't read her name on the headstone. I added a GPS to make it easier the next time I come to visit, and she really is here at the end of the marker right here. There's the marker at the street that says B4, and if you just walk down about 20 headstones, and she's right here. Now, I can't remember if it was on her Wikipedia page or if it was on her Find a Grave Memorial page, but one of them said she created the Howdy Doody marionette, which is the most famous marionette in the world. Now, immediately when I read that, I thought, well, I would have assumed that Pinocchio was the most famous marionette in the world. So I think maybe they needed to qualify it and say Howdy Doody was the most famous marionette on TV. Of the two, I'm guessing Pinocchio is definitely a lot more famous as a marionette. So if you're not familiar with the story of how the Howdy Doody show came about, and I really wasn't until I did a little research for this video before coming to the cemetery today, a man by the name of Frank Paris had a puppet show or a marionette show on NBC, filmed back in New York City at Radio City Music Hall, and the puppet or marionette on his show was called Elmer. Well, it turns out that Buffalo Bob Smith joined that show at some point and became the voice of Elmer. And over time, the show became more and more popular. So NBC decided that they wanted to have merchandise that they could sell, but they didn't want to give a cut to Frank Paris. And he objected and said if he didn't get a cut, then he was leaving the show, which is just what he did. So apparently the director of NBC at that time had just caught a puppet show or a marionette show done by Velma Dawson, who was a marionette out here in California. And since she was the only marionette that he knew, he contacted her to see if she could create a marionette for the show. And according to the article, she created the Howdy Doody marionette in 9 days, and she was paid $300. I think that's all she ever made for creating one of the most famous marionettes in the world. Kind of sad when you think about it, isn't it? Back then, $300 was probably more like $3,000 today, so it was still quite a bit of money back in the day. Howdy Doody's mom, as her epitaph reads, was born in Sydney, Australia on May 30th, 1912, and she died here in Palm Springs on September 27th, 2007, at the age of 95. And I find it kind of neat that Howdy Doody's mom is laid to rest just a couple of gravesites away from Cabot Yerxa, the father of the city of Desert Hot Springs. He discovered the world-famous mineral hot springs there, which helped turn the city into one of the spa capitals of the world. He also built one of the coolest handmade homes in the world, which is called Cabot's Pueblo Museum, and is one of the most popular tourist destinations here in the Palm Springs area. He died on March 5th, 1965, at the age of 81. His epitaph reads, "He led us to the miracle waters." And just a few gravesites away from Cabot Yerxa's final resting place is the gravesite of an actor with a very special connection to Frank Sinatra. Actor Brad Dexter appeared in many classic movies and TV shows during his career, but he might best be remembered for saving Frank Sinatra's life. And obviously it had a huge impact on both of their lives, since you can see Frank Sinatra's gravesite from Brad Dexter's gravesite. It seems pretty obvious that they remained friends for life and beyond. On March 10th, 1964, while both actors were in Hawaii filming the classic movie None But the Brave, Sinatra was swimming in the ocean and was swept out to sea. Apparently, Dexter and 2 surfers saw what was happening and swam out to rescue Sinatra and saved him from drowning. Dexter was also briefly married to singer Peggy Lee. He died in nearby Rancho Mirage on December 12, 2002, at the age of 85. As for the other cast members from the Howdy Doody Show, Bob Smith, who played the star of the show, Buffalo Bob, or maybe I should say the co-star of the show, died on July 30th, 1998 in Hendersonville, North Carolina, at the age of 80. He was cremated and has no final resting place to visit at this time. Bob Keeshan, who played Clarabelle the Clown, died on January 23, 2006 at the age of 76 in Babylon, New York, and he's buried at Babylon Rural Cemetery in Babylon, New York. As I'm sure many of you know, Keeshan went on to even greater success on his own show, playing Captain Kangaroo from 1955 to 1984. Judy Tyler, who played Princess Summer, Fall, Winter, Spring on the show, sadly died in a car accident near Rock River, Wyoming on July 3, 1957, at the young age of 24. She's also remembered for starring opposite Elvis Presley in the 1957 movie classic Jailhouse Rock. Tyler was laid to rest in Hartsdale, New York. Bill Lacornick played Chief Thunder Thud and popularized the nonsensical word cowabunga. He died in Miami, Florida on September 19, 1997 at the age of 81, and sadly his final resting place is unknown at this time. Comedian, actor, and voice actor Dayton Allen played a number of characters on the show. He died in Henderson, North Carolina on November 11, 2004 at the age of 85 from a stroke. And it's interesting that he and Bob Smith both died in Henderson, North Carolina, just 5 years apart. Sadly, his final resting place is unknown at this time. Now, as I promised earlier, here's a look at Frank Sinatra's new headstone. It seems to have just been placed in the last couple of months or so, and it's here in the same section as all of the other gravesites I visited today, near the front entrance to the cemetery. As you can see, he now has a new epitaph, Sleep Warm Papa. His old epitaph was "The best is yet to come." Over the years, many of you have asked me where I plan to be buried, and I'm actually planning to be cremated. And about 5 years ago, right after my younger brother died, I purchased a cremation niche right here in the outdoor columbarium that overlooks all of the grave sites that I visited today, including my grandparents' grave sites. I've shared my future final resting place on this channel before, but I know that not all of you watch every video, so for those of you who have asked, I thought I would share it again today. I'm not in any hurry to move in, but when the time comes, at least I know I've got nice neighbors. This week, I'd like to thank my newest Patreon supporters, Diana Maida and Mike Davis. Thanks so much, Diana and Mike, for your donations to my channel. And I hope you happen to be Howdy Doody fans, or that you're at least old enough to have heard of the show. If you enjoyed today's trip down memory lane, I hope you'll join me in another one by clicking and watching this one here. Until next time, thanks for sharing the memories, everybody.